into film school, but not for filmmaking, but theory and criticism. Because at that time, I didn't think I had the personality to be a filmmaker. You know, the hustle, the fast talk, that extrovert. I was not an extrovert. And so I went into photography, which is just you with a small camera, which was very doable for me. I never learned screenwriting, but I learned how to watch films, how to analyze films. I was a literature student at Harvard, so I learned how to analyze books, narrative, character development, point of view, all the things that help in writing a script. And photography gave me a visual sense. Meera and I, when we did Salam Bombay together, that was my first script. I had never studied screenwriting. I didn't know that, you know, what they teach you about the 3-act structure. I had no idea. I just wrote it as a story from beginning to end. So we did all this research, and from that, I wrote the first draft of the script, and then Meera, being a theatre person, wanted to have a theatre workshop, and that's how I met Barry. It was a first for everyone. It was a first for me as a writer. It was Meera's first film as a feature filmmaker. It was her first time on a set, actually. She had never even been on a film set. I had been on a film set because between the time I wrote it and between the shoot, I had been a still photographer on a film called The Perfect Mother, so I'd been on a film set. Everyone's first film, Sandy Sissel, the cinematographer, her first film, the kids' first film. So that's the Salam Bombay story.
They may be interested to know it was Irfan's
first film, of course, how could I forget? Irfan was part of the theatre workshop, invaluable part of it. Meera wanted to cast him as one of the gang, but then Sandy came to the workshop and she said that there's supposed to be a gang of kids, and you know, he was so tall and would have thrown the gang out of balance, so Meera kind of dropped the idea. He was bitterly disappointed, and he used to say that he cried on my shoulder. I don't quite remember that, but I don't remember telling him the cliche, one door closes, another opens, and boy, did it open for him in a spectacular fashion. But so many years later, you know, he went through a real patch of trying, and The Warrior, many years later, is what launched him, and then of course, lots of other films. Then Mississippi Masala was also based on research. And my third film with Meera was The Namesake in 2004, again with Irfan and Tabu. This is a case where sometimes God blesses you with casting. Meera had looked around and was trying a lot of Bollywood casts like Amir Khan. I remember sending the script to, and I remember going with Roses to Rani Mukherjee. Thankfully, all of them said no. And that's a rejection can be a blessing, and in that case, it was a real blessing because, of course, we landed up with the best pair ever, Tabu and Irfan. I've done films without Meera. I've done Such a Long Journey based on Renton Mystery's novel. That was really a long journey and took 7 or 8 years to make it as a film. It was my first adaptation of a book. I learned a lot of things adapting the book. It was very difficult because a screenplay can only be, the kind of screenplays I write, can only be maximum 120 pages, where a shooting script when you're actually shooting is about 100 pages, 110 maximum. So how do you adapt a book that is so full of character, so full of plot, into, you know, so little time? One of the actors in it, very old childhood friend called Ranjit Chowdhury. Palpadaksi's son, who has since passed away, was in it. And yeah, that was my first experience of adapting a book. And since then, I've adapted a lot of books. I did go back to LA after Salam Bombay, and I was living there, working there as a screenwriter. I was paid very well, but nothing that I wrote got made because that was the system then, where they developed far more than ever got made. And then I got tired of that, and I moved back to India and met my husband, got married, had 2 kids. Was asked by Ravi Gupta of NFBC to work on a script on Dr. Ambedkar. I was very hesitant because being a Parsi in Bombay, I knew nothing about caste. I was very ignorant about caste. But he persuaded me to do it. At that time, I had worked on a script on the Buddha with Meera that had not got made. And so that was the connection with Dr. Ambedkar. It was the hardest script I've ever written, but the one that was actually the most satisfying because I learned a tremendous amount. And I worked with 2 other writers, Arun Sadhu, who was a Brahmin, and Daya Pawar. Both of them have since died. Daya Pawar is a very well-known Dalit writer. And he and I worked very closely together. He introduced me to the world of caste, to the world of being a Dalit and what that was about. And I gained a huge appreciation for Dr. Ambedkar, what he stood for, what a remarkable man he was, one of the most remarkable that India has ever produced. So that was one of the scripts I wrote. What else? Yeah, when I was 50 years old, so I was working as a screenwriter. And then when I was 50 years old, I had just come back from the namesake shoot. I had some time on my hands. And I decided to write a script for myself, which I'd never done in all these years. And I wrote this film called Little Zizu, which is set in the Parsi community that I belong to. And it talks about serious issues, but in a funny way. And it starred Boman Irani and my kids. And it was my 50th birthday gift to myself. I was 50 years old when I made it. After that, I directed a film called Ye Ballet for Netflix. And recently a series for Amazon. And for that, it's about a group of girls. And for that, I reconnected with Barry after all these years. After Salam Bombay, we reconnected again. And they did a workshop with Barry, which was hugely beneficial to them. So you guys are very lucky to be doing this workshop with him. The girls during the shoot kept remembering Barry, was so thankful. It was all their first time, really. They were not seasoned actors at all, but they had so much confidence after the workshop, and they were so good during the shoot that I'm eternally thankful to Barry. And pretty much that's my journey in a nutshell. Ye Ballet is based on a true story about 2 boys, and I did a documentary, a 360-degree documentary, short film, on the 2 real boys, and then I felt 14 minutes was too short for such an amazing story, so then I wrote a feature film script, and it was produced by Roy Kapoor Films and Netflix.
When you went to New York, there you didn't study.
Boston.
You didn't study screenwriting, but you learned how to watch and analyze a movie. Can you tell us something about that?
So, the movies that I watched then when I was an undergraduate were, I hate these terms, but to make you understand, they were art films. They were not mainstream commercial films. So we watched a lot of European cinema. I watched the films of Rene, Bresson, Godard, Fellini. Fellini was my favorite. Satyajit Ray, an African filmmaker called Sembene Usmani. So the diet of films was really amazing, and we were so we were so snobbish in a way that we had a very famous Hollywood director come to do a workshop with us called Alan Pakula, and I look back and I think what brats we were. We were so almost rude to him because he was like commercial mainstream and we were like, not for us. So those were the kind of films that I was watching. So I would do like, I did a seminar where we watched one film, Hiroshima Mon Amour, for an entire semester. At that time there were no VHS, anything. If you watched a film, you had to either screen it or watch it on a Steenbeck. A Steenbeck is a flatbed editing machine. So we watched Hiroshima Mon Amour on a Steenbeck, going back and forward, analyzing it, you know, watching the shots, etc. So those were the kinds of films that were my kind of, and at that time, 70s was, you know, the peak. 60s and 70s were the peak of those kinds of films. And there were a lot of theaters in Boston and New York that showed what's now called independent cinema. So when we did Salaam Bombay, the two films that were our kind of benchmark were 400 Blows by Truffaut, which is about a kid, and Pichote, which was a Brazilian film about a boy, and Buñuel made a film called Los Olvidados, also about a boy. So that helped us situate ourselves in the canon of films about children, about boys. So, yeah, so it's watching those kinds of films and analyzing them that helped me, I think. Yeah. And now, of course, they're available everywhere. Movie has a lot of, you know, now to get a film education, you don't have to spend a lot of money at all. Because you can watch films online, you can listen to people online, you can read books online. I mean, the world is open to you. In my time, that wasn't the case. When VHS came out, it was like a big thing, you know, those big tapes. So I've seen a lot of technology in photography and in film, because in screenwriting, I've gone from typewriter to electric typewriter, which I used to type my papers at Harvard that I borrowed from my roommate, and Selectric with that ball that corrected was like state of the art. Then Mira discovered this electronic typewriter that would give you one line of type, precursor to the computer. I still have that machine actually, which was amazing. Then a computer which was DOS system, which was so complicated that I never backed up, and I got into trouble with that because I had to deliver a script and it was in the computer and not backed it up, whatever. Then I discovered the Mac and my life changed. So. And in photography, of course, I've gone from film, 35mm film, and developing and printing my own work, and color, slides, transparencies, to digital. And now, of course, there's AI, which I still haven't tried, but you know, so I've seen a lot of technology. I've used a lot of technology. I'm old enough to have been through all these stages. Yeah.
First of all, good morning, ma'am.
Hi.
Second of all, do you think there is a balance between art and commercial cinema?
Well, we tried to balance that in Salaam Bombay, in the sense that at that time art cinema was seen to be very slow and, you know, not accessible to a lot of people. So we wanted the sensibility of art cinema, but we wanted to make it that anybody could enjoy it. So that's the balance we strove for, and I think that's the balance we still strive for, that I still strive for, yeah. And I've never actually worked with stars. My biggest star has been Baman Irani for Little Sisu, and Julian Sands for Ye Ballet. And Julian Sands very tragically went climbing, very accomplished climber, went climbing in January and disappeared and has not been found, and that's been absolutely tragic, and I was heartbroken. But yeah, he was, I think, the biggest star along with Baman that I've worked with in the films that I've directed. And I enjoy working with actors and actresses who fit the role. I've not consciously gone looking for stars, and that's my personal preference. Process of writing was processing all the research and all the reality, and then creating drama out of that. So it's a combination of fact and fiction. I could not have written it just from imagination. And we didn't want to make a documentary. It wasn't a documentary. So it's a combination of those two things.
Meera ma'am's background helped in that, of making those documentaries.
Yeah, and mine is a documentary photographer also. So we both love documentary in the sense of we think that reality is very often stranger than fiction and more interesting than fiction. But with documentary, very often you also don't get access to certain things, whereas if you make a feature fiction film, you can gain access to areas that you can't. With a documentary, you often can't enter certain worlds with the camera, whereas with your imagination you can.
What is the right way to approach the director?
The right way to approach a director is not through Instagram, not through Facebook, not through Twitter. It is to go through a casting agent, casting director. My casting director is Tess Joseph. Her company is called Tess Joseph Casting. And for the people who write to me on Instagram, I always say, please go to Tess Joseph. As a director, I don't have the time and I don't have the inclination to go through so many, casting director is your best bet, and a reputed casting director like Tess, who Barry knows. Yeah.
One more question. When you audition someone, what do you look in their part when you see the audition, and when you meet them in person to finalize them?
I go to audition myself. So, for this project, Tess had audition also at Cat Cafe. So I was there for the auditions. And we would give a scene from the script, What I look for as a director, A, does the person fit the part? And B, how natural they are. That's for me is what I need to see. Are you natural in front of the camera? And do you have a range? Which Barry helps with a lot in helping you get that range.
When you're writing the stories, do you think about the entire story before writing the screenplay, or is it you progress while you're writing the story? Just like, especially with character development and everything. Do you do it when you're writing it, or do you think about it before writing it, start writing it?
Obviously, think about it. And usually, I have a paragraph where I kind of know where it's going. So it's not completely a blank page. But my personal method is I like to let it develop as I write. Because I find the more I write, the more things change and characters develop, characters start speaking to you. If you have a blueprint plan, then I feel like I'm just filling in the blanks, I like when things evolve and change. For me, filmmaking is a very organic process. So, at every point, it changes. changes when I'm writing a script, it changes when actors come into it, it changes in the shoot, it changes in the edit, it changes with the crew you bring in, with your DOP, you know, happy accidents happen, and I'm really open to all that. I'm open to improvisation, but always keeping the larger picture in mind. That's the way I work.
How do you write for like performance? Like when you know credible actors are there, like Irfan, Sooni, Padma, and how do you write for that? Is there
Well, when I write, the actors are not in place, so I'm writing with. I wasn't writing with Irfan in mind. Irfan came on much later.
but those particular actors, but just that there will be credible actors there. So sometimes less is more. Or
Less is always more. Less is always more. That has to be a mantra. Less is always more. For me, yeah. You just write the best possible character that you can, and then a good actor will come and make it even better. You know, which is great for you as a writer, because as a writer sometimes you get credit for stuff you haven't written. You know, a great actor can come and improvise something and you get credit as a writer. It works the other way also. But in my case, I've been very happy with everything that's been made for my scripts, and I always think that the films are better. I've never felt, oh, the film was not as good as the script. I've always felt the films are better than the scripts. Yeah.
How do you overcome writer's block?
I hate to say this, but I've never had writer's block. I know it sounds obnoxious, but I really haven't had it. One way though, I'll tell you as a young writer, don't censor yourself. Don't write one page and say, oh, it's not good. You know, I can't go forward. Writing takes no investment except your time. You don't have to show anyone, it doesn't cost you any money. Just keep going and don't censor yourself. Don't edit yourself. Just keep going forward and wait to edit yourself later. And inevitably, even for good writers, experienced writers, you always are changing and making it better. Nothing comes out perfect the first time. So that's been my fantasy, that one day I'll write a first draft that will be perfect, I won't have to write any more drafts. Never happens.
You mostly make art house in cinema, and you know that the finances to making art house in cinema are not that, you know, not that much. So how do you plan out the film where that part doesn't become an obstacle in the story?
You have to know your limits, right? If you're making an art house independent film and you're writing these huge scenes, you know, massive scale and all, you're fooling yourself because it's not going to get made. So you have to have some knowledge of what things cost as you write, and it's always a struggle. Even Meera says, even now it's a struggle for her. It's a struggle to make films, the kind of films that we make. And it's getting even harder now because streamers like Netflix, Amazon were our saviors because we could make films without stars, smaller films, independent films. But now I'm told the streamers are also looking to make big films, you know. So we're back to square one. Also these days, you have so much technology that you can use that was not there in my time. My time you had to source a big camera, you had to pay for film, you had to have an editing studio. Now you can make a film with your phone. So don't let that part of it, if you want to make a film, if you have a good story, go out and make it.
As an actress, if you're working with you on a project, and there's something in the story that does not, maybe probably does not seem logical to me, should I actually be vocal about that suggestion, or should I?
Of course, you should always be honest. If you feel something in the script that's not working for you, I would always appreciate the actor or actress telling me why it's not working, and I either change it or I try and convince you what I think. But there should always be a dialogue between the director and the actor, I think.
Sometimes we say that chemistry is not working. So there are workshops to get friendly with the actors and co-actors. But on set, should we, how can we create chemistry? I have observed that we need some space on set for the scene to prepare in the mind. Then how does the chemistry work with the stream with the actor?
For me, it's a question of well, for instance, the recent series that I can't name is about chemistry really, because it's about 6 girls. And that chemistry was formed by Barry's workshop, and then afterwards that carried on set. So, if possible, to meet your co-actors before the shoot starts. And that bond that was created in the workshop was real, besides giving them confidence with the acting. That bond that was created in Barry's workshop was invaluable. And they were such a tight group, thanks to the workshop, that it was a real blessing. And continue to be a tight group even after the shoot, which is wonderful.
According to you, what is the definition of a good actor?
In 10 words, please.
A good actor is someone who convinces me about the character they're playing. If you convince me, you're a good actor.
That's 11 words.
And a great actor is one who convinces me and who makes me feel, wow. Yeah.
When you're writing, is it always that you start with the introduction, and sometimes you've thought about the middle of the story, you just start writing that? And then
No, me personally, I start from the beginning and I work towards the end. Like I'm writing a story, basically. A screenplay is really a story that has a beginning, middle, end, and told in a different way in the sense of the format, etc. But it's essentially a story. You know, everyone's made this big deal about screenwriting, formulas and 3 acts and turning points, and this should happen here, this should happen there. I never learned like that. If I had learned like that, I would have given up screenwriting because it's so complicated and it's almost formulaic, you know. There's no fun in it. So for me, I take it as I'm writing a story, but just in a different way.
And you always focus on conflict. Like you always say that the conflict, there should be one conflict that has to be really huge to the point where you change the story. So do you believe in that? Do you think there has to be one?
Drama is about conflict. That is, I think, the essence of drama. There has to be some conflict, whether it's like internal or external. Yeah.
So how does the writing differ while you're writing a show in episodic format, and what do you try to get in an episode, and how movie, what do you prefer?
See, I think episodic television is really a writer's medium because I've always struggled with length, writing feature films. You have to say everything in 110 pages, and it's always, always, always difficult, you know. This is the first series I've done. It's such a luxury for me to have time to expand, to like go into characters, to like. So for me, it's a different ball game that I quite enjoyed actually.
Are there some principles, your own personal principle, like less is more, and something like that, that you always keep in your mind?
Yeah, I don't, I find a lot in Indian cinema, and I'm always struggling with it, is that people want you to spoon feed the audience, you know, in the writing also. And I'm constantly fighting against that, and I'll get a note that says, say this, and I say, but they're going to see it 5 minutes later, you know. So show, don't tell, I mean, it's the most basic principle of cinema. It's a visual medium. It's not like a talking medium. So that is something. And revealing stuff, not just feeding information, not exposition. You reveal things gradually, especially in episodic. You're not, and basically not spoon feeding the audience with information. It's a style that unfortunately has taken root in India, and it's going to take a while to change it. But yeah.
So what is your take?
As I said, my thing is always to reveal rather than throw everything at the audience in terms of information in the first few episodes. I think there's more audience engagement if you reveal, then the audience wants to know more. If you already told them everything in the first episode, what is going to make them want to see the second episode? Now there should be a want, like now what's going to happen, now what's going to be revealed, rather than giving them all the information right off the bat in the beginning.
And which was your fastest screenplay?
Namesake was pretty quick because we had to submit it to some film festival for funding, and I think the first draft was like 12 days or so.
So now do you write the best in pressure?
It's all the same to me. For me, writing is a job, whether there's pressure or no pressure. I park myself on my chair and I write. So there's no such thing, aaj mood nahi hai. It's a job.
So basically writing, you take breaks of 2 days, 3 days a week.
When I'm writing, for me, I plunge in and I don't like to come out. Because I feel if I come out, then it'll be harder to go back in. So I do it till I reach the end. And usually I write, and then when I come home at night, I read over and I edit. And one trick, which is a pretty common one, is when you stop writing for the day, you stop at a place where you know what you're going to be writing the next day. So you are never faced with, oh God, now what? You stop a little before, so you can start again the next day knowing what you're going to write.
I find it very difficult for me to actually go and edit what I've written. Like I've written a story, but the editing bit, I just can't get myself to edit whatever I've written. So how do you manage that? Like what do you feel like? I just don't feel like editing whatever I've written. It's like I've written it out once and I just can't get into editing whatever.
Maybe it's perfect. You only edit when you feel the need to edit. You edit because you feel there's something that you can make better. But if you don't feel the need to edit, maybe it's as good as it's going to get. I don't know.
Now you have benefited so many actors and also so many actors. Do you think extrovert actors are better?
I don't think Irfan was an extrovert actor, and how great was he?
I was just checking.
What he said? Cross checking.
Man, क्या?
Yeah.
What are your favorite screenplays?
screenplays, because screenplay is written to make a good film.
Like, you can see that it's like really well written and
Well, I think Breaking Bad is amazing. Succession is amazing.
Ma'am, a lot of times, there's a situation where there's an actor, but the actor is also interested in understanding camera or cinema or how the shot is taken, or gets involved in all of that, that other people are supposed to be doing, the script or the dialogue. Is that a kind of a distraction for the actor? Like a lot of times, a lot of people say that if you're an actor, you should not be focusing on the script or other things. It's not your job. Or if you want to be an actor, then just focus on acting and nothing else. But do you completely agree with it?
See, as an actor, you're free to be interested in whatever you're interested in. But if as an actor, you're on my set and you're chatting with the DP and you're chatting with this one and that one, that would be a distraction for me. Because I have brought you onto the set to act, not to educate yourself about. You can do that. You can do that when we're not shooting. But when we're shooting as an actor, I expect you to just be an actor, not be educating yourself about other things.
So for me, I think I'm a perfectionist. So whenever I record a video or anything, I just want that one perfect video, and I feel if I don't get it, I'm really stressed and I can't record one video. If I can do it in 5 minutes, I take an hour to do it. So how do you overcome that? Because it's always in the back of my head. I want this perfect shot.
But when you do that, do you reach that sense of satisfaction after an hour?
Yeah, I do.
Then that's your process.
But I can't do that on set, right?
No.
That's
That's where Barry comes in. To teach you how to reach that without an hour of work.
On shoot day, tell yourself, today I'm not the perfect one. I'm imperfect.
I'm imperfect.
Yeah. I'm not perfect.
So have you dealt with an actor who's a perfectionist on your set?
No. I mean, nobody has. Sets are very. It's a very time-bound exercise. You can't afford it. You have to. I mean, I'm fighting time all the time as a director, and so if an actor is going to take an hour, they're not going to last long on my set.
Ma'am, suppose it's an emotional scene. So in other scenes we can do homework and practice it again and again. But if it's an emotional scene, do you think we should not practice too much?
That's not, I don't know the actor's process. That is again Barry's department. I don't know how to advise you about how to get to a certain point. I really have no idea, which is why I send my actors to Barry. Because I can't help them in that department.
As you said, you started when studying films, and that kind of makes you think a certain way. You're questioning things, and when you're done with your own writing, are you still do you have no, with the final draft, do you have no questions? Is that how you know that it's done? Or do you still have questions and still go along?
It depends. Sometimes you feel that there's some things that can change. Sometimes you feel, no, it's good enough for this stage. But as I said, filmmaking is all about stages. So one stage is over, then the actors come in, they'll bring something to it. For me, it's a very organic process that is always evolving. There's no written in stone in my book in terms of films. The only time it's written in stone is when it's all done and it's being projected. That time, there's no change. But before that, everything is fluid.
Keep your options open.
Yeah.
This thing, talk of perfection. Everybody's doing the best that they can. What else can you do?
Absolutely.
You know? What is perfection? Who knows what that is? What? Amin Khan. No, but I noticed.
While auditioning, you are there. So, as per I have asked कि what you are gonna sing to कि आप क्या चाहती हैं director से?
मैं चाहती हूँ कि वो मेरा कैरेक्टर जो मैंने लिखा है, वो कैरेक्टर है और उनका रेंज क्या है, बस वो एक ही चीज़ कर सकता है या उनका रेंज है और भी कुछ कर सकता है. As Barry teaches you how to have a range.
In your writing, how much important is research into the world of the characters?
For me, it's primary. It's all important because I find with me, research really gives me the substance for the script. It really informs the script. It really makes it better. And I enjoy it. I enjoy the research process a lot. So everything, either I'm researching a real world situation or I have a book that I'm adapting. Either way, I have some source, you know.
As a director, do you feel anxiety during the shoot dates? So there's so much to shoot and so less time.
Yeah, there's always anxiety.
How do you enjoy the process there?
You enjoy it because you're working with so many. I love it because I have worked in solitary things all my life. I was a photographer, one person, one camera. I was a scriptwriter, one room, one computer. So for me, filmmaking is a collaboration. I'm working with so many people, and that gives me energy. And of course, there's anxiety, but you're also being helped by so many people. You know, your anxiety is not yours alone, though it is sometimes. But also you have people to fall back on. You have a crew that's helping you. You have actors who are helping you. So the anxiety is mostly, for me, before the film begins. First couple of days and then the anxiety goes. But there is still, for making every day, you have to make the day in terms of the schedule. That is and then you adapt. There's certain things you cut short. There's certain, you play the game. You adapt. You adjust. Kindly adjust. That's what directors do.
Has there ever been an incident where you got very upset on somebody, or you just want to walk out of the set or something like that?
I take great pride in being the best version of myself when I'm on set. My two kids, when they were little, acted in my film Little Zizou, my first film. And we had a show premiere at Lincoln Center in New York. And they were on stage with me. And my son played the title role, Little Zizou. And the questioner asked him, what was it like being directed by your mother? And his answer was, I loved it because she's much kinder on set than she is at home. As I said, these days you can make films on your phone. Just continue trying to make films.
Yeah, they use their iPhone.
Yeah, you can continue. There's no. Just continue as much as you can. Continue practicing your craft, is what I'm saying. In the old days, you couldn't because it was too expensive. Now you can. So as a writer, keep writing. As a director, keep trying to make films. As an actor, try to act in other friends' films. Just keep practicing your craft.
Ma'am, it was a pleasure for us to have you here because we had just finished watching our films, and all these questions also that came in, they were so fresh from us. and we had more students from the future or the past. And it was so happy that you actually spent most of your energy in guiding us in the most, enlightening way. And I think I'm just like still so happy to have you here, and it was just so nice to be here. And I am thanking you on behalf of everybody, and I hope to see you soon, or may any of us get a chance to work with her.
It was a real pleasure talking to all of you, and thank you for inviting me, Barry. And you're all lucky to be in Barry's workshop. And thank you, Barry.
Shubha.